That is LA Mayor Karen Bass leading a procession of activists to a congressional field hearing on Monday here in Los Angeles over the issue of immigration. You just saw her testifying at that field hearing, and now LA Mayor Bass joins us here on This Story Is. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, you're a former member of Congress,
That's
back
right.
with members of Congress today. What was the main point of this?
Yeah, well, we actually asked for a congressional investigation into what was going on with ICE, in particular, some of the abuses that have taken place, but also specifically about U.S. citizens who have been detained, and also people who are here legally, who have the proper status and the proper papers. And so I asked Robert Garcia, who was the former mayor of Long Beach. We are fortunate that he's from our area, and he is the lead Democrat on the Government Reform Committee. And what we're attempting to do is establish the data and to do the investigation now while the abuses are occurring. What typically happens is 4 or 5 years after the fact, then people want to look backwards, and we want the data compiled now, so when the political winds change, that people will be held accountable for what they are doing right now.
So Congressman Garcia is the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee. And so their website just today put up this dashboard. We want to put this up on the screen. And basically what it is people can submit instances that they feel were potential abuses of power by federal law enforcement when it comes to immigration. And as we scroll here, you can see some of those potential issues there that would then be investigated going forward. And you think this is crucial?
Compiling the record, absolutely. Because it's my hope that in the future, we will never, ever repeat this moment in history where you essentially use the U.S. military inappropriately, using them to deal with a domestic situation, which we have laws against, that you would just detain people. There's over 5,000 people in the Los Angeles area alone that have been detained. Many of them have been deported and sent to other countries that they're not even countries that they're from, and sometimes don't even speak the language. This is an egregious assault on the American people, and I don't want it to ever see it happen again.
But you know that there's no evidence of any American citizens that have been deported, and if you're in this country, if you're in this country illegally, you run that risk.
Not deported, but detained.
Right.
Why should a U.S. citizen even be detained? There was a young woman, a student, who came in and provided testimony today. She was detained for 3 days because basically she was a victim of one of those sweeps where they would roll up a car, would roll up, jump out of the car, and detain someone.
But if you're in this country illegally, you legally don't have a right to be here.
Right.
And the federal government has the right to kick you out, right?
This is true, which is why we need to have comprehensive immigration reform like we did in the 80s when the last time there was comprehensive immigration reform. What we did was we essentially said for everybody that is here now that is contributing constructively to the country. I mean, you know, in Los Angeles, we have sectors of our economy that are dependent on immigrant labor, legal or illegal. We don't need for there to be mass deportations that takes place. It hurts our city.
But the criticism of that is that LA, some people feel, is relying essentially on slave labor. That it's unregulated, that it's unfair to those people, and it's unfair to the workers who are doing things the right way.
Well, let me just tell you that I absolutely recognize that immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants, can be exploited. It's not slave labor, and if it is, then the employer needs to be arrested and detained as opposed to the workers that are just barely trying to survive. But you know, there's a lot of reasons that people come in. You know, there's the whole situation of parents who bring in a child, and the child, you know, came here innocently. Why should that child be deported to a country that they don't know anything about? So until we address comprehensive immigration reform, we have these situations. But this administration has chosen to go about immigration in such a brutal manner. And it started in LA, and as we predicted, it's moved to other cities.
Yeah, and that's part of what I think you were trying to do here today, is to tell the LA story because it is instructive to the rest of the country. And we have seen this happen in other cities.
Yeah,
what do you
that's
think is the
correct.
most important lesson that the rest of the country can learn from LA?
Well, the most important lesson is to resist this. This is an authoritarian move. The U.S. military is never supposed to be used in a domestic situation. What I am worried about probably the most is that this becomes normalized and that Americans accept military intervention in our cities. This should not happen. It was not needed here, and I'm sure it wasn't needed in any of the other cities where the military intervened.
Where were the Republicans today?
I don't know. That's a good question. I can tell you where they weren't. They were not at this hearing.
What does that say to you?
Well, it says to me that immigration reform is a hyper-partisan issue, and it also says to me that the Republicans are still afraid of the administration. Although with what's happening with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't know. Maybe there's a crack in that wall. Maybe the Republicans are actually going to stand up and govern.
I mean, you're a former member of Congress. You
I
know all
am.
these people. You know her.
I
You know
do.
all them. What do you think is going on there? I mean, what do you think is going on with her, and what do you think is going on with the Republican Party? Now
Well,
reports that some might be resigning, which could
Yeah.
give the Democrats the majority.
I actually believe what she said, which is she's tired of her life and her family being threatened. And Alex, I don't know if we ever had this conversation, but I remember before January 6th, my Republican colleagues off the record would say, yeah, we don't agree with him. We know some of this stuff is crazy, but if we don't act like we agree, he'll primary us. Profound change. After January 6th, they said, yes, we know the stuff he's saying we don't agree with, but we're afraid of our family and our personal safety. That is deep that they felt that. And so when I heard her say that, that was consistent with what my former colleagues said.
Lastly, it's Thanksgiving. What are you most grateful for?
Oh gosh, I'm grateful to be in the city that I love, that I've been born and raised in, and all that we have to offer. Very grateful for my family and their patience. But I will tell you though that that's actually not my focus this Thanksgiving. My focus this Thanksgiving are on the families who have missing family members, who in some instances don't know where their family members are because they've been detained, maybe they've been deported, maybe they haven't. My thoughts this Thanksgiving are with the families in the Palisades, Malibu, and Altadena who are not in their homes and who are worried that the clock is running out on the rental assistance that they've been giving. I've called on banks to extend the forbearance, which means that people shouldn't have to pay their mortgage in addition to rent while they're rebuilding. And I'm happy to say that the Bank of America responded and they are going to extend it for 2 more years because people, this is a very, very tough time. Holidays are tough even under the best of circumstances. But in a situation where you have experienced terrible tragedy and grief, it gets accentuated during holiday season.